Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with Bill Stierle. And you know, Bill, I feel like our last episode, there was really a deeper dive we could have taken into the statements by Tucker Carlson and what we were talking about, the power in being controversial.
Yes.
Because there's a lot more that's come out about it. And it really shows a striking, I would call it a flip-flop. I think you would call it something else, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, because it's really a duality. It's a lot of times we talk about, the concept of, hey, you were standing over here, you flip-flopped to this other position. Yet many times these things are not black and white as you think they are. They're not as polarizing or opposite as we think they are. The need for financial security that media empire, Tucker Carlson, any Jake Tapper, whoever the person, they're all looking for people to watch them. And because they're all looking for people to watch them, a part of them needs to say or do things in a certain way that brings that population or that group of people towards them. So they will test things. They'll test outrageous things just to see if they can move the needle and to gain the eyeballs they need to secure the advertisements that need to be. If we were to, as a society, we could to make sure that when something is labeled news, it's got to have a 70% indexed on truth. That'll change a lot of shows. Then it's not the Laura Ingraham angle, it's the Laura Ingraham opinion. It's the Tucker Carlson opinion. It's the, Sean Hannity, the way I see it. Then it's sort of like, well, yeah, I see it that way. And, other people may see it that way and they make it entertainment out of the way they see it. And that's called the marketplace will allow that show to stay on as long as people extend connection and respect towards that person. The only problem is when we get to bigger civic issues, what's best for the country, what's best for the state, what's best for the environment. Boy, if somebody has enough opinion, they can opinion us into a really bad place. And that is really a part of the power of being controversial is that the opinion gets stickability. So the current thing has to do with mask or no mask. Well,
it was shocking to me to see within the span of 2 weeks, Tucker Carlson, I think on March 30th, saying that the science behind masks is clear. They work. I mean, he was really making what was a very factual statement, and he was supportive of it. He was supportive of it. And then somehow within the next 2 weeks, all of a sudden, masks are equated with child abuse, and masks, I mean, he even had a guest on, and we have the video in the blog post at purchasingtruth.com so people can see it, where his guest is saying, he's in Austin, Texas, walking down the street in the city without a mask, and people are looking at him like he's crazy, like he's doing something wrong, like he's dangerous. And this person said, I actually think it's the other way around. I think those people wearing masks are offensive to me. They're outdoors. They have no reason to wear a mask. But then Tucker Carlson took it to another level and said, I would even take the analogy to a stronger place, that when I see someone outdoors wearing a mask, that's as offensive to me, and I'm paraphrasing here, as somebody walking down the street and exposing themselves. That, hey, put it away, he said. And it's like, really? Somebody wearing a mask on the street is as offensive to you as somebody who is exposing themselves?
Yeah, if I'm looking for the need for financial security to be met, and I'm trying to get the engagement or the upset in my viewer to say, listen, I'm seeing something that is bothersome to me. Uh, Tucker and even Rachel Maddow and on both sides, they do and say things. They experience an emotion, so the viewer maintains loyalty and connection through the emotion need not being met. They're in that place of doing that, and they will. They're not equal. We can take and put a scale on how many fact things or near facts or half facts or partial facts that the person is promoting. And I had to do all levels because, it's like, I always try to think of a needs-based narrative as like you have two scales, and this is the truth, and it weighs, a gram, but somebody's got a half truth, and that's a half gram. So they say it twice. They say the half thing twice, and then it equals out the truth on this side. You see how weird this is going to get? It's like you're messaging, you're competing messaging, and you're saturating something. So you can literally sell, toxic sludge as a energy drink. You can, if you push it large enough in that direction, or say, yeah, that environment was better served without the elephants living on it because now we can farm it. It's like, no, we just lost the elephants. The human beings will tend to spin rationale into their bias or their belief, but they're really actually just setting aside the truth. So that's really unsettling.
Well, and it seems some of these opinion hosts, they change and spin it, one way than the other. Like you called it the duality. I mean, it's all just about what's going to get them the most attention in the moment.
That's right. And it's all to activate the feeling inside the viewer, because the viewer many times doesn't know what their needs are. The need for choice, the need for independence, the need for loyalty versus the need for health, the need for protection for others, the need to collaborate, to live in a civil society. We have to give and take things. We can't everything we always want, because otherwise, it's one person's dominating thought. A civil servant, a statesman, is a person that says what's best for the society and gets rid of the extreme ends. We don't really particularly have that as much. We have more politicians and less statesmen. I kind of wish there was a visual on this, is that when a person is, running for a campaign, they need to have like a some type of colored scarf. Maybe one side has the scarf on this, but once they get elected, they need to both sides need to take off the scarf and put on the new scarf to say, I am from this moment on going to pick what I think is best for our society and my constituents that voted for me, even though I said I would do something. Sorry, the thing I said I'd help you, I am keeping that in mind, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do it, because it's not for the good of all. In business, this is really valuable too, is that when we buy a product or service, how many times, Tom, try not to laugh too hard on this one, how many times your customer has way more expectation of what you're going to do than what they signed up for, what the scope of what they paid for is, and they completely expand beyond truth. And then all of a sudden you bring to them something like that's a reality. This is the contract. Here's the 5 items. I've nailed all the 5. And on the other side, the person's going, yeah, but I thought I was going to. Well, that's not on the contract. And, I'd be willing to help you with that, but it's not fully on the contract.
Right.
So,
No, that can tend to happen, what they call scope creep,
scope creep, that's for sure.
Scope creep of a service related, product. Despite how clear you are, a lot of times people will just make it up in their own mind what it is that they thought they should get, or somehow after the purchase, in their mind, the scope changes. They think they should be getting more than they actually, paid for. And those are difficult conversations to have.
Yeah, they are. And
but it has to happen. I mean, it
really does.
And then you have the other thing that's very difficult in customer service that's similar is, you have a customer that, you need them to make a decision on something and they haven't made a decision on it. So you can't move forward. And you ask them, hey, I need to know your decision on this item. And they say, oh, well, I already made that decision. It's like, okay, well, what was that decision? And they don't tell you. I mean, it's really weird. Some people's communication styles that, well, I already told you, so you should have that. Well, okay, I don't have it. I'm looking for it. Well, what is your decision? And they don't tell you. I mean, it's just really weird. So there's all sorts of communication conundrums that we deal with in business, right?
Well, that communication conundrum, if we go after it there, would be, how do you empathize with somebody that's stuck? So you feel it. So my empathy line would be, so you feel maybe feeling torn and some confusion about what the best choice is. And part of you wants to choose this and part of you wants to choose that. And you're not sure which one to pick. They have to say yes, because guess what? They are not answering you anyways. Because it's really a big part of proactive empathy is getting in touch with the thing that is knocking the human being out of making a decision on their own behalf. Seeing something that the difference between something that's moral and ethical and something that's illegal. You got to see the difference between those things. And the only way to get there is to manage / connect to your feelings, to your needs, as well as the person that you're speaking to. Because they're disconnected.
It's interesting, Bill, you talk about the duality to get eyeballs. We're talking about, something that Tucker Carlson said one week, and then within 2 weeks, he says another. I see this in customers also where, just to put it in my language and what we do, the customer says, no, I don't want to change the name of my podcast. I want to continue with the name I have. I just want to rebrand it, have a new logo, some of the stuff. And we go through it. And then down the road, a month, they say, we're providing all this stuff. And they say, no, I'm not happy with the name. I want a new name. Oh, now you want a new. So no, I always wanted a new name. So that this becomes the duality. No, how did you not know? I always wanted a new name. And it's like, well, it's not really appropriate for me to play back the recording where they said they didn't want a new name. Now they want a new name. It's like, okay, we can do that. So I have to empathize with them. So I hear that you're looking for a new name for your podcast. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, then we move on. But the duality, sometimes it's not just to get eyeballs. Sometimes it's that somebody always needs to be right.
Well, the self-worth is a need there, as well as emotional safety is a need there that causes people, I'm not going to say the word lie, but I'm going to say the word is to pick a different truth at a different moment. Just
Well, sounds
let
very
everybody
relevant here, Bill.
let everybody settle on this. Pick a different. Oh my gosh, really? Seriously, Bill? If we're holding the space of compassion and empathy, we've got to realize that people are going to pick a different truth in a different moment, because there are multiple truths going on many times. It doesn't necessarily need to fall on something. That when we get better at this, pick a different truth at a different time. It's like, well, this is the truth I picked based on the information I had. And in this moment, this is the truth that I'm picking at this moment. I'm picking a different truth at a different time. So if Tucker Carlson gets a harder financial hit by this current controversial thing, well, then there's going to be backtrack, silence, licking his wounds, seeing if he can reboot in another place. Think of it like this. Pepsi tried this one. They had one of the Kardashians hand a Pepsi can to a police officer that was standing in riot gear. And that commercial is a good awareness moment that being controversial could have paid off. It could have paid off. There would have been things I would have done in the shot differently to make that work and really demonstrate that could be taking place, at which time the next, march that you have, the police officer would be marching this and the crowd would be marching with a Pepsi in front of them, like this. And you got shields and you got Pepsis coming at them. And by the way, I would love to see that image, because that would be, if they would have been ready with that gamble and throw that out there, people would have just totally cracked up and was like, oh, this first moment wasn't supposed to be something poignant. It was supposed to be something silly. And guess what? You've just taken a controversial moment, you've shifted, and your brand recognition is going like, that was pretty damn funny. Like that at the same time it's hard to talk about serious things like violence from the police and how hard it is to do that kind of safekeeping, as well as how hard it is for Pepsi to get marketing traction. How hard it is for Tucker Carlson to try to solidify his base, because he turned on him 2 weeks earlier when he said masks are this. He got a ton of blowback, and he's going like, well, I ain't going there. And he comes back on the other side and does something extremely different on the other side.
Attacking masks and anybody wearing them, including saying having children wear masks is akin to child abuse. I mean, that's the shocking statement, which is getting more eyeballs lately, right?
It is that it, is it? And then you can interview 50 psychologists and you'll find 5 that'll say, oh yeah, kids are much more anxious and nervous and scared now than they were before the masks. And the answer is good, because that means their emotions are working correctly. Anxious, nervous, worried, scared is the right feeling sequence when there is a virus that might hurt somebody in your family. Now, the way I just described that is the message that's missing for the kid.
Right.
We're marrying the mask because we're being considerate and protecting others. We're marrying the mask to care for ourselves and our family. We're marrying a mask so that our society can collaboratively work together. Now, I want to see the PSAs on those. What I just did is, by the way, write somebody's PSA campaign about mask wearing. How does a parent talk to their kid about masks? Mommy, I don't want to wear the mask. So you really feel hesitant and the mask is uncomfortable for you? Yeah, I don't like it on my face. So you'd really like not to wear it on the face? Yes. I would like to not wear it on the face too. Would you be willing to hear what the good reason is why we're doing it? Huh? And then you give the message, the good reason. There are
Y-
3 really good things.
Can you just imagine if somebody like Tucker Carlson had a guest on his show that was not already in alignment with his thinking on this? And I think there have been some, but sometimes he shuts them down, and especially if they're remote guests, which they pretty much all are,
Yeah.
and then won't let them speak. I think one of the videos we put in the last episode blog post showed that, where he's like, nope, you're done. And he has his producer cut him off. But if he couldn't cut him off and somebody could actually say, talk like you did in a reasonable way and say, hey, Tucker, so you are not interested in providing tech protection for your parents or your grandparents from this virus, and
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah. So the not narrative is not as powerful as the power with narrative, because it's a little, and Tom, you and I talked about it, is how language stacks on top of each other.
Right.
And so as soon as you do a not narrative, it overlappies. So to make it clean, it would sound like this is saying, well, I guess we all can really agree that getting the need for safety met for our elderly Americans and our Americans that don't have wellness, it might be a good idea to wear masks. Well, if you're not around those kinds of people, I guess you could choose to get your need for freedom met at the expense of health of others. But I think that collectively we're looking to all get the need for freedom to be restored as quickly as possible, is that correct?
Wow.
Yes.
So much better than I was starting to say it, Bill. Yeah, that's great.
But so you put the leads out, Tom, and this is what's so fun about this show too, is that then you and I clean it up on the the back end. But that's the new way of thinking about communication, is that we've got to do a better job of putting in collaborative narratives versus power over narratives. And the power over narratives are winning. And the reason why the power over narratives are winning is because the language is set up into an adversarial, we got to get this, there's a reward here, there's an accomplishment, and we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're not celebrating the journey as much as we need to. We are acknowledging the reward instead of recognizing what it takes to get the reward. See, the way I like to think about it is this, is that when JFK says we're going to go to the moon, by the end of the decade, that's the lofty goal. And then he throws a few nickels behind it in NASA, and then they start blowing up rockets. And of course, the answer is, hey, listen, we can't keep blowing up rockets. You guys got to get better at this. And the scientists wound up getting better at this. And they became more cautious and more safekeeping and more of this. But they also, when you do that, you lose creativity and innovation along the way, because you're double checking you're not moving ahead. Well, guess what we're doing now? Elon Musk is blowing up rockets because he has enough money to test and fail and test and fail and test and fail and test and fail and test. Holy crap, he got there quicker. If you have the revenue to test and fail, then what happens is you can get a success. Now, in this new moment, I'm going to turn that narrative into being controversial. In marketing, people test and fail all the time. They test and fail. President Trump, former President Trump, used to test and fail until he succeeded with slogans during rallies. That is, in business, it's A/B marketing. It's, did this email work better than this email? Did this email work better than this email? Did I get their attention? Did I have them open the email? This is posting on social media. Did I get likes? Did I not get likes? Did I get likes? Oh my God, my likes went away. They went over here. How'd they go over here? How can I get my likes back?
Wow, that really does relate to what these opinion shows and hosts are doing, doesn't it?
Yes, test failed. Now, they're not managing the journey as much as I would like them to. Because the journey is, how do you create a unified and an America that can have two people at a picnic or at a Thanksgiving dinner, and people know when the hell to shut up and remember why the hell they're there at the Christmas or a Thanksgiving dinner. They're there for family. They're not there to work on their political issues out over turkey. That's not what they're there for. And regrettably, because there's so much pain about this, and people are siloed a little bit, grandpa or uncle that's sitting at the table going like, well, my age, at my time, you get to say what you want. It's like, no, I don't think that was true back then. I think everybody came there and people knew when to shut up because they weren't there for that. There was other times to do those narratives, not at Thanksgiving. It was about things that were more safer and benign to talk about, like sports and other things like that.
It's interesting. Why is it with sports, Bill, with team sports? Why is it that we can rib each other? I can kind of trash the Miami Dolphins and you can kind of trash the New England Patriots, and we can have fun with that, trying to get each other's goat, as it were. And then at the end of it, we can still be friends. Why is it so much more difficult with our politics right now?
I think the short answer is because those sports identities are not as fully attached to our self-worth, and they're not occupying so much of our identity. Whereas when you're voting, the identity piece gets escalated, the loyalty piece gets escalated, and it's very hard to separate the two. As I'm thinking about my brother right now, as my brother would say, it's like, listen, there's a lot of sensitive people out there. And if you become opinionated, that's good. They'll just click on and they'll click away and they won't buy from you. Now, notice that he's by the way, he's right. And by the way, that's what happens to certain people on, certain TV shows and things like that, the marketplace is saying, no, I don't want that sitcom. I'm not going to be there. Out. Why? Because there's no advertising dollars. There's no eyeballs there. And so there is truth to don't be controversial. And then the other side says, well, if you are controversial, you'll be able to stand out more on your side. And there's plenty of customers over there. Who cares about the customers on the other side? Mm. And that's why news media has split the way it has. They've polarized because the self-worth and the identity is so close together. Whereas in sports team, you can kind of like take it or leave it and go like, yeah, is Miami really going to put a team together this year? Is Cam Newton really going to be the quarterback for the Patriots for more than another year? Is he going to get hurt on the way? And I don't know. He's over the hill, Tom. He'll never be Tom Brady.
I would agree with you on all that, but yes. Well, boy. Well, that's really the thing is that if you're right. I mean, television as a medium, it's a business, and they need eyeballs in order to do business. And so the controversy, I mean, I'm remembering now back to Howard Stern's book, Howard Stern's Private Parts, which also was a movie. And, in the early or mid 80s, Howard Stern was at WNBC in New York. And he was extremely controversial to the pushing the edge of the envelope. And when they studied data, when they researched the listeners, they said, people who love him listen for a total of an hour and a half every day. And they said, well, the reason why is they want to hear what he's going to say next. And then the people that hated him listened for 2.5 hours a day.
Wow.
And when they, the number one reason they gave for why is they want to hear what he's going to say next. So, I mean, the shock, and that's why actually he was called a shock jock, right? The shock does get attention and eyeballs, and I think that's exactly what a lot of these opinion hosts are doing. And I agree, it happens on both sides. It happens with the Jake Tappers, the Don Lemons, the Chris Cuomo's of the world, as well as the Hannitys and the Tucker Carlsons and the Laura Ingrams, right?
That's correct. That's very, very unsettling, because being able to and being mindful of how a person's how the listener's physiology is working to keep engagement going, engagement, keep engagement going is a part of it. Once money got more involved in politics through Citizens United, that's when the sales people started coming out, and more of the polarization took place, and more of the you can't vote across the aisle because your side, your people can't get anything done if you vote across the aisle. And that's when the collaboration and cooperation just took a nosedive, and that's been really tough. So
that has been tough and disheartening, actually.
Yeah. So we will, if we're gonna get back to it, get collaboration and cooperation to move to the front of the list again. People struggle with it, because when I say the word collaboration and cooperation, it's got to be emotionally safe for you not to get the thing you want in collaboration and cooperation. It's sort of like, we're going to go this way, we're going to see if it works, and then we're going to go this way if it doesn't. And one of the things the voters say when they're with Donald Trump is he's a strong leader. Well, actually, he's a strong messenger that messages a opinion and is okay about changing the message within the next 30 seconds. And they like that he's able to talk from both sides. And it sounds like he's leading. He's testing. There's a huge difference between leading and testing.
Oh, like he said on January 6th, march down the street. You're going to have to fight like hell if you want to have a country anymore. And then a couple hours later, he's putting out a video trying to say, everybody go home, whatever, changing the message quite a bit from
we love you,
storm the Capitol.
Okay, you're great people, go home. And all he just did was take the hornet's nest and put it out there and hit the stick with it, and everybody was hitting the stick to get the hornet's net moving. And it's not the hornet's fault as much. The hornets aren't thinking. They're going protection, safety, identity, integrity, trust. You see, their loyalty. That's what they're doing.
They're reacting, I think, right? They're more reacting to being poked with the stick.
That's correct. They don't know what their needs are. They just know they feel bad and angry, and the leader told them to go get their needs met. And of course, the emotion then takes over, and then a police officer doesn't look like a human being anymore. But aren't you voting for, and don't you support the police? Well, not these police. These police are traitors. Huh? These police are sworn in. They're this. You're not doing that job. But there's the rational mind is going to pick the thread that validates their identity and stays lockstep with that until they ask themselves the real question. Is this really my identity? Is this really the way I'd like America to be? When I just like to walk down the mask and go a street and go like, hey, they have a mask. Hey, they don't have a mask. Hey, they have a mask. They don't have a mask. It looks like that group is going for health, safety, and cooperation. The other group is going for freedom and choice.
And how about that? Live and let live.
Live and let live. And oh, by the way, I can see you over there without a mask. If you start walking towards me, I want to let you know I will be walking away from you, because I'm working on safety and cooperation as a nation. You're not working on that, but that's what I'm working on. So really, really, really helpful stuff. Anyway, so more to come on this, Tom. It's not like there's not going to be controversial. We got to decide, is it going to be a week or a month before we get to do, truth and the power of controversial statements? Are we get through a week? We used to not be able to get through a week without having 5 controversial statements just to say
that's true.
Changed.
I mean, definitely the temperature has come down in a lot of ways, and all media is not necessarily giving oxygen to every controversial statement.
That's correct.
The way they did when the president had his Twitter account, the former president had his Twitter account. But
that's correct.
So that's great. You're right. We come into our sessions to record, and sometimes we're like, all right, well, what do we want to talk about today? And it's not so obvious, which I think I think is a good thing, very much. But
well, it allows us to go deeper on issues instead of for us to be reactive too. So
that's true. Okay, Bill. Yep. Well, hey, thanks so much for that.
Thanks everybody for listening. More to come.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.